Hi, I'm Patty. I go by Pattymac Makes everywhere online. Welcome to my channel. For today's video, I wanted to share a seasonal placemat that we can use for 4th of July. In my family, 4th of July was always a really big, really popular holiday. My father served in the Navy for almost 30 years and was a World War II veteran. So we're pretty patriotic around here. I really enjoy it, and I just was like so inspired to make this really cute project for you. Let me just give you a sneak peek. Here is the finished project. So in the front you can see I've got a really fun representation of our beautiful flag, and on the back I went with a solid. And I matched the thread, so you can't see the quilting on the back, but it's there. And I wound up using the same blue that I used for my star field. Now for my fabric, I didn't have any stars, but I didn't think that that took away from the look of the project. All of my fabrics I had in stash. I just pulled from what I already had, put everything together, and this is how it came out. I absolutely love it. All of these fabrics are from Joann. I've had them at least 2 years, maybe 3. They've been around a while, so it was super fun to pull them together for this project today. In addition to the placemat, I also made coordinating fabric napkins, and I used the light colored fabric for my napkins. So this is how it looks with the fabric napkin, and I love it. The napkin I made using my mitered napkin, or my dinner napkin tutorial, which I will link to for you right here. I'll also link it below. And I love making my napkins like that. It's the easiest way that I have found to get a nice mitered corner. Without any further ado, let's jump in and see how to make today's project. When I design a block or a project, I like to focus on keeping it really simple. I think quilting can get super complicated really fast. And personally, I like to really enjoy my projects. I like to have a good time cutting. I like to have a good time putting everything together. If I start getting stressed out about a ton of little tiny pieces and a bunch of really weird cuts, very quickly I'm going to lose enthusiasm. So with that in mind, I kept this really, really simple. I used 2 main rulers to make this project. I used a standard 6.5 by 24.5 inch ruler, which is something every quilter should have in their ruler arsenal anyway. I also used my new favorite ruler in my arsenal, which is the 2.5 by 24.5 inch quilting ruler. I love this ruler so much because it is the same width as a jelly roll strip. So oftentimes you want to be able to cut your strips from stash and not have to rely on pre-cuts. And with this, it is the exact measurement that I need. I don't have to count anything. I don't have to think about it. I love this ruler. It is life-changing. I highly recommend it. I also highly recommend Creative Grids rulers. They are fantastic. I have switched to all Creative Grids in the past year. They're amazing. So links to where you can find those below. And yeah, let's talk about how we're going to use them in the project today. The tools that you'll need for today's project are as follows. You're going to want a cutting mat. You're going to need a rotary cutter. You're going to want the 6.5 by 24.5 inch ruler. It's nice to have, you don't have to have it, but I highly recommend the 2.5 inch by 24.5 inch ruler. You're going to need pins, or my new favorite way of doing all of my quilting projects, which is to use wonder clips. You're going to need a sewing machine, of course, and you're going to need a good iron with an ironing board or a press mat. Some optional things that I use in the projects, you don't have to if you don't have them on hand. They are very nice for finishing out the projects. And what I used is a 1/4 inch foot for all of my piecing. I used a walking foot to do the quilting portion of the project. I swear up and down by a point turner. I absolutely love this thing. It's $10. It's life-changing. Your projects look 100% better, and you won't poke holes in your corners. I was having issues with poking holes in my corners using objects that were just a little too sharp. So the point turner is wonderful. The supplies for today's project are as follows. You're going to need 3 colors of fabric. This is an American flag, so we're going to want red, white, and blue. You're going to need enough that you can use a solid for the back of your placemat. And you're also going to need, of course, thread. I wound up using a thread that matched the fabric I used on the backing so that the quilting wouldn't show. That's entirely up to you. You can be as creative with this project as you like. I also did stitch in the ditch for my quilting. That's my preferred method. Again, you can do whatever you like, whatever speaks to you, whatever is your favorite method of quilting. Knock yourself out. Once your strips are subcut to the right sizes, all we have to do is then piece them together, and it will go together in 2 seams. The first is when we attach the strip set of 3 to the blue, and once those are together, then we will piece the 4 to the entire, and then you'll wind up. Oh, but here's what you want to watch out for. You want to make sure that you are putting the right strips together so you can see that's not the right way. Here's what you want. There we go. That's how it should be. So you put your 3 to the blue, and then you're going to take the 4, and once those are together, attach those. And what you're looking for on the bottom piece is for the red to be on the bottom, because our flag has red on the bottom and the top. Once these 3 pieces are together, we will apply the fusible quilt batting, and then we will sew the top to the back, right sides together, and then we'll flip everything out and finish our project. So don't go anywhere. Let's go ahead and piece our parts. Here's the top of our placemat. I consider it a mini quilt top. Our beautiful flag, and as you can see, the fusible quilt batting has been adhered. I just follow the manufacturer's instructions, and I like fusible on small projects like this. It's stiff, it has nice body, and I think for a placemat, it's really a good choice. So as you saw, I cut the fusible a little bit wider than the actual project, and then what I did was I trimmed it down. So I wanted you to see how it looks when it's trimmed, and then I'm going to show you the one that is not trimmed and just give you a couple of tips. Here's the second placemat, and as you can see, the fusible has been affixed to the flag, and what we're going to do now is trim down and even everything up. This is kind of the same thing that you would do if you were working on a full-size quilt or a larger quilt project. It's the kind of the same concept. We're going to cut our batting a little bit big, and then we're going to adhere it and then cut it down. Now, what I have not done, I have not quilted yet. I want you to see that. This is just a plain top. We will do our quilting when the placemat is put together. And the reason that I wait and do it at the end is because I want the front of my placemat to be affixed to the rear of my placemat. And if I do my quilting now, when I sew the back to the front and we do all of that part of the project, then the back of the placemat is not it's not affixed. It's just kind of floating. And I like to have my stuff all sewn together. So that's how we're doing this. Anyway, I get ahead of myself. Let's trim this down. And what I'm going to do is to take that same large ruler, and what I'm going to do is line up a line with a seam line in the middle of the project, and I'm going to line that up and then get it as close to the edge as I can. We don't want to trim any more than we have to. And I will just get all of that nice and lined up and then trim. And then I have a good square edge, and then I will use that square edge with the lines and continue cutting all the way around until I have all four sides nice and square and trimmed. So let's do that now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a line and we're going to line up. We're just going to pick one of the seams and get it lined up. I'm just going to go with that one and then get it as close to the edge as I can. I don't want to cut any more than I have to. And you take off just that little bit. Now I know I have a nice square edge. So we're going to turn it. And then what I'm going to do is to line along the bottom with a straight edge. And you can see how kind of crazy this gets, but once we trim it, everything is nice and square. And nobody will ever know that it was off a little bit. It's just one of those things in quilting. Okay. And there's your beautifully squared off placemat, and nobody will ever know that you were off a little bit. And our next step is to cut our backing. Our backing will then go right sides together, and what you will do is stitch all the way around. But we're going to leave an opening, and you want to leave an opening big enough that you can get your hand through, and that is the place that you will turn the work. So I'll get what I want to use for my backing. I'm going to place it right sides together, secure everything, and we're going to just stitch all the way around, and then I'll come back and see you here. Our placemat is all put together, and you can see here is the front with the batting, here is the back. But you can really see the seam line all the way around here. And what we're going to do is trim the corners. And when you clip your corners, You do not want to cut the stitches, but you want to come pretty close, but don't cut them. And just take a little bit of weight out in the corners. And I'm going to do that all the way around. What this does is makes it so that when you turn your work out, you have a much nicer, sharper corner than you would otherwise. So I'm just cutting at an angle just to take the weight. To turn the work, you're going to come in here where you left your opening, and what I do is come through and grab a corner and pull it through. When you get everything out, typically it doesn't look very good. It looks kind of like that, and that's where this point turner comes out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this sharp edge and the corners to push them out, but you do it gently. And then this edge I'm going to run along the seam, and that will really open up all of the seams. So that sharp edge, just get it in there, and it just gives you a much better point than you would have otherwise. And if you use something too pointy, like I have in the past used knitting needles to do this, and honest to goodness, you will poke a hole. So I know it's one more tool to have, one more thing to buy, but oh my goodness, you will wind up using it a lot more than you think. Okay, and then we're just going to run this through and open up our seam. And take your time with this because you want to be really thorough in getting all of the seams opened. All right, and now what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to give your placemat a really good press, and then down here at the bottom, you're going to want to press into place the fold. Okay, so you have that 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you can see it's trying to turn all by itself. You'll want to turn that and press it into place, and then when that's pressed into place, what we will do is do like an 1/8 of an inch edge stitch all the way around. And the edge stitch will do two things. It will hold everything in place, and it will also sew up this opening. So what we're going to do, we're going to do that on the regular machine, and then we're going to start the quilting process, and all I'm going to do is stitch in the ditch. That's kind of my thing. And it will secure the front and the back, and I will do that on my machine with the walking foot. So, okay, I'm going to give it a good press, and then we will go ahead and do our nice edge stitch and our quilting. And we'll have placemats. And here is the beautiful finished placemat. I've gone ahead and done what I was going to do with my quilting as well as the edge stitching. And the edge stitching is right there along the edge. And you can see that it's completely closed the opening where we turned our work. And as far as the quilting goes, the only thing I did was stitch in the ditch, which was to follow the lines. That's generally what I do. I like that look, so that's what I went with. And here's the back. And the back, I just went with the blue Starfield. That was the plain. And you can see my thread matches so well that I missed getting some of my threads. So there we go. If you wanted to see your stitches on the back of your work, and you've got like a dark and a light on the front, you could use a different bobbin thread and that would show. But for me, I'm fine with it just like this. I know that the front and the back are stitched together. They will hold really well over time as the piece is used and washed. And you know, I spend a lot of time making these. I like my things to last, and I'm sure you would feel the same way. It secures the quilt batting into place. Even though it's a fusible, over time through use and washes it could come loose, so this way we know that everything is in place as it should be. And once you wash and use these, just give them a good press and they're pretty much good as new. I do like making my quilted placemats like this because I don't have to do any quilt binding. And you know, quilt binding, that's kind of a love-hate thing, isn't it? It looks really great, but it's a little tricky sometimes to get it onto the project, and it can be a little time-consuming. With this, there's no need to even worry with the quilt binding. So that is our finished project, and I wanted you to see that I went ahead and made a napkin to go with the project. I decided to go with the lighter color. And you could even, if you wanted to, use your placemats like this. And look how fantastic that looks. I just think it's amazing. So this particular napkin, I made that using the same method that I made in my dinner napkin video, and I'll link to that for you. It'll be in the description. But there you go. There is your finished American flag placemat, and I sure hope that you will make one. That is today's beautiful project. I hope you enjoy it. I hope that you will make these placemats and enjoy them all summer long. I've linked to a blog post below in the description area. In the blog post, it'll give you all of the written instructions to make this particular project, including measurements and all of that kind of stuff. That's what I have for you in the video today. I really appreciate you watching. And yeah, I'll just see you in the next video. Until then, have a beautiful day, and I'll see you around YouTube. Bye-bye.